All right, everyone has their house open, and I want to jump to the, I'm going to delete my second floor. And let me just see, did I delete it? I don't think I did. Did I delete it? I'll do it right here. All right, I just want to put in a floor just in case someone hasn't put in a floor. So I'm in a sectional view right now. You can see that I'm missing a second floor. I've got my roof, I've got my walls, and I wanted to do this for a reason, because I think some people have their floors not in the right location. So let me show you what I mean. I'm on my second floor right now. I'm going to go to architecture and I'm going to quickly put a floor in. If somebody needs to put a floor in, you could follow along with me rather. Remember, there's a lot of choices that we can have for floors. And I'm going to go with a wood truss with an oak floor for my second floor. And I'm going to pick the interior walls, and I'm going to find out that it creates a fine floor for me, but there's a problem. If I look at this, my floor system is not sitting on my wall. It's it's being held up by a half an inch of sheetrock right now. Well, that's not going to fly. The floor system is supposed to be sitting on top of the wall. That's what platform framing is all about. So I'm going to go to the second floor, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to click on my floor, and I'm going to hit Edit Boundary. And if I zoom in tight, and by the way, I have my view set to thin lines, and I have my detail set to, fine detail. So now I'm just going to grab this and pull it out, and be careful, you don't want to pull it out past the plywood, you want to just pull it out to the face of the core. So if your wall, or floors rather, are not sitting on your walls, you could simply edit your footprint of your floor plan. I know I'm going quickly, and some of you have houses that are much more complicated than a simple rectangle, but you can pause the video, get all your walls straightened out, or your floors straightened out rather, and then and this is something we can edit all along. If I hit OK now, and now if you look at my sectional view, this is structurally what should be going on. There should be a floor sitting on top of my wall. So that's great. So the next thing I want to do, and we started this last class, is we started messing around with these different levels. We added some levels in for our garage footings, and we talked about a logical height for the top of the garage floor being 0. And we were going to set the garage floor to 0 simply because that is probably a close connection to the grade of the yard outside your house. So before I set the garage floor to 0, because the first floor is currently on 0, I want to move the first floor and the top of the foundation up. But how much do I need to move them up is dependent on a few things, right? So let's start doing the math here. So my floor, and I'm going to measure my floor system right now. My floor system, if I go to annotate and grab my measuring tool, my floor is 1 foot 1 7/8 thick, and that's including the, whoop, I shouldn't have measured from the sheetrock. Let me take that back. Let me do that again. So I want to measure from the bottom of my floor joist to the top of, actually, yeah, I'll do that, to the top of my finished floor. Okay, and that is 1 foot 1 3/8 inches. Now I know that the top of my foundation needs to be this distance plus the thickness of my sill plate, which is another 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches plus 3/8 would be, so that would be 1 foot 2 and what did I say? 7/8, right? So the first floor should be 1 foot 2 7/8 inches above the top of the foundation. And last class, does anyone remember how high we were? The foundation should be high, how far above the dirt, which we're calling the garage floor? Does anyone remember that? Oh, and you were telling me that you didn't want the siding to rot, right? 8 to 10 inches. We're going to make it 10 inches, okay? So we're going to add another 10 inches for that. So we need to have those numbers handy in order to move these things about. The other thing is, for some of you, I started another video and I moved all these things around so that they weren't crowded over each other. And you might be wondering, how the heck did he do that? So let me take a moment and just show you how you can move these things. Let's do a simple one that you have access to, like the second floor of the roof. If you click on the line, you'll see this little squiggly show up. You see that guy right there? Once you click on the line, I'll do that again. I just clicked on the level line and the little squiggly became active. If I click on the squiggly, I now get these little dots and I can move the text that's associated with that level, but it doesn't change the actual height of the level. So you're going to need to move some of these around so that you have access to, because you can see that all these things get crowded. I'll put mine back so mine looks more like yours. So let's start at the bottom down here. If we go to the bottom of the footing and click on that line and get that squiggly, we now can start pulling these things away so you've got room to work. All right? And you don't need to do a perfect job right now. I just want you to have access to each of those levels. Anybody need a hand with that? Okay. So getting back to the height of our levels, we're going to call the first floor needs to be some height above the garage, and we said it was going to be, and that the first floor needed to be some height above the top of the foundation. So if your floor system is the same as mine, and it doesn't matter if it is right now, we can always move it again later, we're going to move your first floor above your foundation 1 foot 2 7/8 inches, and above your garage another 10 inches, which means 10 inches on top of 1 foot 2 7/8 would be 2 feet 7/8 inches, right? So the first floor, I'm going to come right in here and I'm going to type in 2 feet, and I don't know if I can do fractions, 7/8 inches. See if it likes that. It does. All right. So I said that my foundation was going to be 10 inches above the garage floor. So I'm going to just click in here and just type in 10 inches. And then I'm going to remove my garage floor to ground zero. All right. Did I lose anybody? All right. So I should have, if I did the math correctly, I should have 1.5 inches between the top of my foundation, whoops, and the bottom of that. Hey, look at that. I can add fractions. Nice. Okay. So moving down now, we got to decide how tall do we want our basement to be. Well, most people want, a good sized basement, but I think the forms for a typical foundation wall would be about 8 feet. So I think that the top of your footing should be -8 feet above, -8 feet below the foundation. So our foundation is 10 above, right? So the top of the footing, we better move these others first. We better move the basement floor. The basement floor is 4 inches up. So, and we said we wanted this to be -8 feet from the foundation. The foundation is 10 above 0, so that would be -7.2. The basement floor needs to be above that by 4 inches, so that would be -6.10. Is that right? Let's try that. We may have to move that. I'm doing this math quickly in my head. So change the level of your basement floor to negative, negative 6 feet 10 inches. Okay, then the top of our footing, I think, should be negative 7 feet 2 inches. May have done something wrong there, but let's see. Now that looks right. Okay, and then the bottom of our footing is going to be negative 8 feet 2 inches because the footing is a foot thick. All right. So we've got these straightened out. We've got our first floor straightened out, and we now need to straighten out the garage footings. And we know that if the garage is at ground zero, that the top of the bottom of the footing should be negative 44 inches, and the top of the footing should be negative minus 12, so that would be negative 32. So we can go double click in here and just type in negative 32 inches, and it's going to fix it for us. And this one would be, I'm going to move this thing up so I can see it, negative 44 inches. All right. Nice. I'm going to hit save because we've done some great work here. Now we got to decide how high our second floor is above our first floor. Now this is a decision that you need to make based on how high you want your ceilings in your first floor. I mentioned that some homes, they go a little higher. Some people put 9-foot ceilings in. Some people put a standard is an 8-foot ceiling. And, you know, some people go even beyond that and put 10-foot ceilings. For our purposes, most of us don't need a 10-foot ceiling. If you want higher ceilings, you can go with 9 feet. But let's, I'm going to make this standard and call it an 8-foot ceiling. So what does that mean? Well, I want to go 8 feet from the bottom of the truss system, because that's my, to the top of my subfloor, not my finished floor. So let me see what I have now, and then I will add the appropriate amount to it. So I'm going to take my dimension tool, and I'm going to measure from the top of my subfloor, which is the plywood below my finished floor, and I'm going to measure to the bottom of my joist system. All right, and my distance didn't get put in. I goofed up. Let me try that one more time. All right, again, the top of the subfloor. And some of these terms might hopefully start to become familiar to you. And I currently have 6 feet 10.5 inches, and I want it to be 8 feet. I want that distance to be 8 feet. So I would need to add 1.5 inches would be 7 plus a foot, right? So this needs to be 1 foot 1.5 inches higher. So this would be 11. Let's edit your second floor. Your second floor is going to be 11 feet. What did I say? 1.5? Let's see if that fixes it. Hey, perfect. 8 feet. Okay, so I now have 8-foot ceilings on my first floor. If you want to go with 9-foot ceilings, obviously you would just change this level to 12 feet, right? And then we got to figure out what we want for our second floor. Second floor, we're probably going to do the same thing. So once again, I'm going to throw a measurement in to see how much I need to move this. I'm going to measure from the subfloor to the bottom of the framing of my ceiling joists. And that one is 6 feet 3 1/4. I want it to be 8 feet. So that means I need to add 8 3/4 inches plus a foot. So this should be 19, whoops, 19, what did I say, 8 3/4? 8 3/4. Hey, look at that. All right, so we have just straightened out all of our levels, and now we are ready to go about putting in some stairs if you want to. So I covered a fair amount of ground pretty quickly here. I'm going to say this is a long enough video, so I'm going to